The other exciting area of study, not only in CLL but in other lymphomas, is the CAR T-cell work. And Tanya Siddiqui presented an update of the TRANSCEND study, which is the JCAR17 construct in patients with chronic lymphocytic leukemia. You were chairing that session. I wonder if you could give us a summary of that experience and where we think we're going with CAR Ts for CLL.
Yeah, so I think the CAR T is probably the next most exciting arena for CLL therapy. As we know, CAR T, so CAR T stands for chimeric antigen receptor T-cell therapy. So CAR T19 has been already FDA approved for 2 indications, for relapsed refractory diffuse large B-cell lymphoma as well as for pediatric ALL patients. But for CLL, the CAR T study, CAR T was actually the first report of successful treatment with CAR T was in CLL. But after that, there was several years where the research has not been pushed ahead, probably because we have so many other good therapies for CLL. But now this one is a very exciting report of using the CAR T treatment, the Juno product, which is actually using a CD4, CD8 1-to-1 ratio mixing of the T cells, which is distinguished from the other CAR T products. So in this setting, they're using for patients who has, if they have standard risk feature, they have to have at least 3 prior lines of therapy. If they have high risk features, then they have to have at least 2 prior lines of therapy, and they all have to have prior exposure to ibrutinib, either being intolerant or being resistant to ibrutinib. So even among this heavily pretreated group of patients, the response is pretty exciting. It seemed to be overall response close to 80%, and the complete response in the 45% range. Some of the patients can actually have fairly durable response. So considering that in the era of targeted therapy, we always think what we're going to do if a patient is failing the BTK inhibitor as well as the venetoclax. So what options do patients have? I really think CAR T might be their best option. Of course, CAR T, we're always concerned about the potential toxicity associated with the CAR T, primarily the cytokine release syndrome and the neurotoxicity. So cytokine release syndrome is fairly common in this particular clinical trial as well. However, the more severe cytokine release syndrome is actually less than 10%. So that's also very encouraging. The neurotoxicity also is manageable. I think we're learning a lot more about how to have early start of steroids that can potentially reduce the chance of severe neurotoxicity. So even though there are still some toxicity concerns, but I do think efficacy-wise, for patients who are failing the standard targeted therapy, CAR T might be their best option.